This is the third and final short video reviewing solving systems of equations. In this video, our focus will be on solving applications using systems. So we already have two methods for solving that we saw in the previous videos. We know substitution and elimination are two great strategies. In this problem, we won't know until we set it up which method looks a little easier. So let's work on the setup. In our example here, we have that in the NFL Super Bowl 49, held in 2015 in Phoenix, the New England Patriots beat the Seattle Seahawks by 4 points. If the sum of both teams' final scores was 52, find the final score of each team. So you may recognize this example because back in the Basics of Solving section, we did the same problem. But here I'm doing it again so that you can see what it looks like to solve it using a system. In our problem-solving process, the first step is really to read through the problem and make sure we know what's given and know what we're looking for. So I feel like I know a little bit about how the scores are related, and then also we know about the totals of their scores added together. So when we go to define our variables, I'm going to define x and y really based on the question I'm being asked. And it's not explicitly stated here, but really they want us to find what was the Patriots' final score and what was the Seahawks' final score. So I'm going to let x represent the Patriots' score, and I'll let y represent the Seahawks' score. I just took x to be Patriots because they were mentioned first, and y to be Seahawks because they were mentioned second. I'm using x and y. You can use other letters if you like. So now the fun part comes in of building a system to reflect the information we're given in the problem. So I think that little green piece of information which relates the scores is going to build our first equation. And I think the yellow piece of information about the sum of the scores could be used to build a second equation. So let's try that out. If we know that the Patriots beat the Seahawks by 4 points, if I tried to set Patriots' score equal to the Seahawks' score, I would have to add 4 onto the Seahawks' score to make them equal, right? Because the Patriots beat the Seahawks by 4 points. So there's one equation. My other equation basically says that if you add their two scores together, so Patriots' score of x and Seahawks' score of y, we end up with 52. So those are the two equations I'm able to grab just from the information we're given. This step right here of actually writing the system, again, this is probably the hardest part of this process. So if you need to pause the video and think a little bit about that part, please do so. If you feel comfortable with our setup, then let's talk about our strategy for solving. So if we're trying to solve x equals y plus 4 and x plus y equals 52, perhaps this is a good time to ask yourself, do you feel like substitution would be most straightforward, or do you think elimination looks good? And here I'm going to say, based on the setup of my first equation, where it says x equals, I think substitution will work out real nice here. Because anytime I see an x in my second equation, I can substitute it with y plus 4, which is an equivalent way of describing x. So I'm going to go ahead and show my work by substitution. When I make that substitution in our second equation, it will now read y plus 4 plus y is equal to 52. And this is something we can, again, solve pretty easily. Collecting like terms, we have 2y plus 4 equaling 52. I'll talk us through these next up. Because of space, I'm going to go ahead and tell you I'm subtracting 4 from both sides. I'm not showing it real well here, but I subtracted 4 from both sides to get 2y equals 48. And then my last step is I'll just divide both sides by 2. And when I divide 48 by 2, I get 24. So that is my solution for the variable y. Now, if I find a solution for y, that's great, but in a system, we really need solutions for both variables. So how do I find my solution for x? Well, with substitution, it turns out that perhaps the easiest way to go about getting the other variable is going to be simply by taking this value of y and plugging it back into our substitution. So x is y plus 4. If y is 24, 24 plus 4 tells me x must be 28. So I have my solution sitting here, but just so that we're clear, I'm going to write a little sentence to interpret what we found. We just found that x is 28. That means the Patriot score is 28. So the Patriots' final score in the Super Bowl was 28 points. And when we found y to be 24, that's what told me that the Seahawks' final score was 24 points. So I have a big mess here, but basically in the end this is the interpretation of our solution, and we're able to easily check our work. For one thing, we can make sure that the difference in their scores was 4, as we were told. The Patriots had more. And if we add the two scores together, so if we add 28 points and 24 points, we do get 52 points. So that's just an example of what it could look like to solve that using a system. Hopefully that feels pretty comfortable, but please go ahead and try out the practice exercises just to make sure.